Kingdom Come Retribution. I'm betting on that name. Warhorse, by the way, liked that tweet, and I DM'd them. I was like, I just guessed the name, didn't I? And they were like, no. If you watch my interviews with Tom McKay, Luke Dell, and Victoria Hogan, in each of those videos, I said, so how's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 coming? And in their Facebook post, they posted, we can't wait to see these in the next Kingdom Come Deliverance. What happened next was they ended up deleting that Facebook post. As soon as I made that video, I lost 200 subs. I drove to work and a truck had broken down in the middle of the road, and I don't know what it was, I just snapped. I spun it round, parked it in the car park, rang my dad and said, I'm not working today, I'm going to come home and I need to tell you something. He was feeling really good that evening on the phone when I was talking to him. He said, because he'd been complaining about chest pains for a while, and I said, go and see the doctor. And the doctor said yes, and generally when someone's about to die, the body will push out one last bit of energy.
Yeah. And
that was that. We just didn't realize. I wanted to let people know we exist, I'm here, and I'm just a normal person who loves video games.
Well, I think I don't normally do intros and stuff like this, so I think we'll just start. This is really weird doing a podcast for the first time, and I thought I'd get Sexy Biscuit on for the first episode. I mean, I've never actually spoken to you, and it's kind of weird because we've like messaged now and then on like Twitter and things like that, or like in the comments, but we've never actually spoken. No,
we haven't, and that's a bit weird. I suppose nowadays everyone kind of communicates in DMs.
Yeah,
you don't ever really talk on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I find often, most of the time, if someone texts me or messages me on Facebook, I will reply to that specific thing, but rarely have a conversation in like text or something. I used to be able to do that all the time when, 16, 17, you'd be texting people all the time, but I just can't do that anymore. I don't know what it is. I'm sure some people watching this know about your YouTube channel, but would you like to give a quick description about what you do and who you are?
What is Sexy Biscuit? That's a great question. If you have never seen my channel before, that's my profile picture of the channel.
Yes, you can just about see that in the back.
The pebbles.
Who did that for you? Was that a display thing?
No, that was my friend Kim. She kind of wanted to make me some kind of new profile picture for the channel, and
nice.
She painted that, and I took a photo of it, and that's what the profile picture of Sexy Biscuit is. It's an actual photo of that painting.
Oh my, that's pretty cool.
It turned out quite well. No, Sexy Biscuit is a ridiculous channel I created to play video games on, and it became bigger than I ever expected, and now I'm stuck with the name Sexy Biscuit. So
I saw your video where, I can't remember, it was either an update video, but you were debating on changing the name, but have you just resided to, I'm stuck with this now?
I think it's become its own brand a little bit. I think people would be disappointed if I did. I mean, I'm endeared to it. I like the name. It's just not very professional.
Yeah, but this is YouTube. I mean, how professional? Even like the biggest channel, PewDiePie reads Reddit and he's the biggest channel on YouTube pretty much, and he reads Reddit. Like, how professional do you actually need? Let's be honest.
Okay, good point. Fine. I'll probably end up keeping it. The only reason I was deciding to possibly make it different is because if you go onto YouTube and start typing in Sexy Biscuit, YouTube will normally auto-complete any words you put in. Sexy Biscuit will not auto-complete. Because of the word sexy.
It doesn't like it.
No, it doesn't like it at all. It's findable in search, obviously, but yeah. So that was the main reason. I was worried that it may end up hindering me in the future. But no, Sexy Biscuit I created in 2017, right at the end of 2017, and just to put silly gaming videos on, and then Kingdom Come came around, and Gonna change my life, I suppose.
You know how painful that is to hear, because I started my YouTube channel at like the end of 2014, and it took me to get to like where you are now. It took me about like 5 years, and then you've done it in like a couple of years. It's really annoying.
No, I'm gonna make you feel better here. I've been doing YouTube since 2009.
But you had a different channel, didn't you?
I've had 3.
Oh, I see.
I had a gaming channel from 2009 up until around 2014 to 15, and that only ever got 1,000 subs. And the Roxy Report, which is my second one, only got 1,000 subs. I was going to give up, honestly, because I love doing YouTube. It's my hobby. But I was getting disheartened, obviously, because you get like 25 views a video, and all the effort I was putting in, it was tough. So I'm glad that Sexy Biscuit came around when it did, and I made that decision, and it was right place, right time. So no, I wouldn't feel bad. Honestly, YouTube is such a roller coaster. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's either the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. Sometimes at the same exact time.
yeah. There's definitely ups and downs, and you'll upload a video that you spent hours on, and you'll get like 1,000 views. And you'll upload a video that you spent 5 minutes on, and it'll get 100,000, and you're like, "What?"
That's sort of the incentive that I had to starting this. I guess you call it new type of content on my channel. When like the end of January, I was doing exactly that. I'd spend like days writing scripts for videos, and they'd get like 2K views, and then I'd like make a Bannerlord update video where I just riff for like 10 minutes and upload it and get like 70K views. And I was like so disheartened. And then I got to the point where I was like, right, let's just every day upload, but try. I think it's that middle point where put in the least amount of effort possible, but to keep the quality as high as possible. And I found that by just not writing scripts and just riffing, but only making videos on stuff that I know a lot about already. So I didn't have to do the research part. And I think that's worked well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you have a good point there. I've never scripted a video ever. That I've kind of kept that as my thing, because I don't want to get stuck in the rut of scripting something and then it's sounding red or fake, I suppose. I mean, I'm not good enough to make it sound off the cuff. And I think that if you have a passion and a love for something, that shines through anyway. So like my update videos for Kingdom Come Deliverance, I used to do patch note videos. And they were my most popular videos, and it was just me reading off patch notes, but I was able to put funny jokes and things in there that I knew the community would love, and I was able to have fun with that. And yeah, I mean, those videos weren't much effort, but they were a hell of a lot of fun to make. And I think that there's a fine line between putting in a ton of effort and not putting in too much effort, and it seeming like you haven't put in that much effort. Because sometimes you will see YouTube videos, honestly, that you can tell they just made because they wanted the views.
I don't know about you, but I'm not innocent of not doing that. I've definitely made YouTube videos in the past that I'm like, it's an easy one, it'll get views, and just chuck it up and not care about it, sort of thing.
I think I have. I mean, with especially when Kingdom Come was really popular, of course, there's a couple of things I knew would get views, so I would jump on it. I think that every YouTuber does that.
I think it's an interesting one though, because like you see the comments all the time that like you're just making this video for views, and then I look at them and I'm like, that's kind of why I don't make videos for no one to watch, right? I'm making these videos because I know people will watch them. And like, if I wanted to make videos, I just wouldn't bother if I didn't want people to watch them. Let's be honest here. So you got like making videos for views isn't a bad thing, but I think the problem is when there's like a bad side to that. So they make a video for views that hurt someone else, or there's a detriment to a company or something like that. I think, it's a weird balance to try and set up. What's sort of your experience with trying to make videos that you know will get views, but you kind of want to keep some sort of integrity? Because I find balancing that quite tricky.
I mean, obviously, now it's not as prevalent because obviously Kingdom Come's not as popular as it once was. But with Kingdom Come, obviously, I knew that patch note videos did well. I knew that news videos, especially if you put massive update or news or Kingdom Come news in the title, it was going to get views. there was that fine line between just making it to say one or two things. And I've done that. I've made videos that literally had two small things, and I had to come up with some way to not only have the video be 2 minutes, because that's difficult. But what I generally find myself doing when I make videos is riffing anyway, so I can kind of extend it a little bit longer and make it somewhat enjoyable, because I don't want my videos to be boring. I don't want to go, here's a news update. There's this released. It's good. No, I want my videos to be something that makes people laugh. And I think you can tell when people are just making videos just for the views and don't have a passion or care, and their videos are just, here's this patch. Yeah, and that sucks. And I think balancing that, as you said, is difficult. I mean, first and foremost, I want to make videos that I enjoy. Basically, I want to share videos that I like, because I've kind of gone through them and said, actually, you know what, this is okay, this is good, it's not. I'm watching it, I'm like, oh God, this is terrible. And there have been videos that I've recorded that I've gone back and gone, oh, no, that's awful.
I think that's the bad side of YouTube, is when, like, what people don't understand is every YouTuber has terrible videos at the start, and it's when you sort of get to a point where you're like happy with what you're making and you go back and see them and you're like, but when you were making them you thought they were all right, but you'll go back and be like, what, it's like just talking slowly, stumbling over words, almost no editing, terrible mics, that sort of thing.
Yes, I recently went back and watched some of my gaming stuff from back in like 2011. God damn it, Boone was the name of the channel, and that stuff is cool. I'm recording off my TV. I have like terrible mic quality that I'm using from a headset.
That's the way. Well, you had an excuse. It was 2011 then. See, I was making videos like that in 2015, 2016. There's no excuse then.
No, that's abhorrent. I can't believe you did that.
So you've had so many YouTube channels, right? So
yeah,
what was the want to start? Was YouTube something that as soon as it became a notoriety thing that you wanted to get on, or was it just sort of you fell into it some way?
I fell into it. It definitely wasn't planned. I used to do a podcast back in 2008, 2009 on Game. What was it? All Games Radio. It was a US radio station, and I used to do that with my friend Aaron. And we decided to make it like a YouTube series, like a YouTube podcast. But before podcasts were really kind of YouTube podcasts weren't really a thing then. So it was just us sat on the floor in my room talking about video games. It was awful. And he moved on to other things. And I was like, you know what? I want to keep making really crappy game videos on Modern Warfare and like, God, Fallout New Vegas. I think Fallout New Vegas was my driving point to want to make content. Because I'd obviously watched other people making YouTube, like Tobuscus, I watched a lot of back in the day.
Yeah.
And his gaming videos I really liked. Nerdcubed as well. I watched his videos.
Still watch Nerdcubed to this day.
So good, so good. And he's 10 years now he's been on YouTube. It's crazy. And I wanted to kind of not copy them, but I wanted to make videos that were like that, because that I enjoyed those videos. But yeah, it was kind of, I loved filmmaking beforehand. I used to make terrible, like, fake TV show trailers on Windows Movie Maker back in like 2009. So I had a passion for film and filmmaking back then anyway. And I just wanted to do it more professionally, but I never expected it to become big. I never expected anything to come from it, because nothing did. I mean, for nearly 9 to 10 years, nothing did anyway. I mean, I made it is because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think that having two channels, obviously, Goddammit Boone was the closest to what Sexy Biscuit is now, but the Roxy Report was completely different. I mean, that was obviously more vlog related to my life and my development and transition and stuff, and that was important for me. And I wanted to make that because it was important for the community more than myself. So it's weird. I think that I see a lot of people ask, how do I start YouTube? And it's like, if you have a passion for something, and I always bloody say this, if you have a passion for something, it will shine through. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Gardening, books, it doesn't matter. You know, toilets, you can review toilets. It doesn't matter. If you enjoy something, go for it.
I completely agree with that. I think a big problem with starting YouTube, and I know because a lot of my friends have done this, is I think most people will have started a YouTube channel at some point, and you mentioned that this was an issue for you at the beginning as well. When you spend years getting 20, 30 views on a video, it's so demoralizing. Yeah. And I think for you, obviously, you didn't give up with that, and that's why you've been able to get tens of thousands of subscribers now. But I think most people that I know, they will set up a channel and it won't get 1,000 views in the first few months, and they'll be like, oh, well, that's done then. I think, it's quite hard, but the most important thing is really sticking with it. And I think a lot of people don't do that.
You need to have patience. Definitely.
A lot of patience.
I mean,
it took me a year to get to 100 subscribers.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes a while. It's not something that suddenly happens. No, I had one of my friends recently be like, oh, I see your YouTube channel. I want to make YouTube too. I was like, oh, okay, well, I can, help if you need it with like creating your account and stuff. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna go do clothes hauls and stuff. And I was like, right, okay. And then they were talking about being like big, like these big vloggers. And I was like, right, but you need to take into account that it doesn't just happen like that. It doesn't just get given to you on a platter. And I think that people don't generally get that. And then when they don't get, as you said, 1,000 views, they give up. And I've seen, over the 10 years, I've seen so many people do that. So many of the channels that I used to watch and friends that I knew just stopped making YouTube content. And it's sad. It really is, because they had some talent, and I think that they could have gone places, but par for the course, really, with YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I have I'm sure like a lot of people, a very love-hate relationship with YouTube. But you mentioned you had the Roxy report, which was that covering your transition then?
Yeah, that was, I made that because I wanted to share my journey, because when I was discovering that I had gender dysphoria, I watched other people on YouTube.
Do you want to quickly, just because I'm sure there'll probably be a lot of people that don't know what gender dysphoria is?
Okay, so gender dysphoria is something that you have from birth. It's not you don't get it. it's embedded in you. Basically, I am trapped in the wrong body, I suppose. Transgender is probably the word that people know most, but the medical term is gender dysphoria. Basically, you look in the mirror and the person you see isn't the person that you have in your head. Yeah. And that's horrifying. See, especially as a kid.
As an outside perspective from that, I can nod along and say yes all I want, but I don't think I will ever experience anything like that. Like, that to me is like a very unknown concept.
Okay, so you look in the mirror right now, and the person you see is completely different than what you perceive yourself as. That's scary. Because the person you expect to see is the person you perceive yourself as. And I've always been more feminine generally. And the person I saw was a man. And I hated that. I hated it. And as a kid, I didn't understand what was going on. I thought I was just weird. And I think the first time that I knew something was definitely wrong was when I was at school, and they had PE and sports and stuff, and we'd have to get dressed in the changing rooms. Yeah. And I hated that. That was the worst experience I'd ever had at that point. And I ended up not doing sports and PE. I ended up getting sick notes every week, to the point where the teacher was like, you don't need to give me your sick note, because they knew I was going to say, I've got a sick note this week.
How did the school respond to that? Because I'm assuming, when was this around? Because I'm assuming they didn't experience that sort of thing that often.
This would have been, 2003, 2004. No, I didn't know what it was, so I wasn't able to tell them.
I guess if you don't know, then
no, I had no clue. I just hated it, and I felt so out of place and awful and scared. Like, you don't have that education. No one tells you that gender dysphoria is a thing. We get taught nowadays that people can be gay, people can have different sexualities. But back then, with gender, God no. I mean, that was a completely untalked about thing. I mean, that wasn't talked about back then. I suppose recently, people who are trans have kind of been put in the spotlight a little bit, like gay people were back in the 90s to early 2000s. And that's positive. I think that it needs to be talked about, and I think that it's important. I never want to shove it in people's faces, though, because I don't think that's right. But I believe that we need to talk about it because that's education. It's not a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a choice. And I think that that's what people need to understand. Because I see a lot of people being like, well, you don't have to do this. We can get better. And I've had people say, oh, I'm hoping you can get medical help to feel better and not worry about it.
Did you feel like they were genuinely concerned and it was just they were uneducated about it, or do you feel it was from a darker place?
I've had both sides. I've had people who say that malice, but I've had people say it who genuinely believe that you can convert people, like gay conversion, which I think is abhorrent. Like, that's who they are. You don't, like, what?
It just it seems mental to me, like. But I think the problem is I just don't think people like change, and I would say I'm probably in some aspects probably guilty of being uneducated about that sort of thing as well, because I think change scares a lot of people. And
oh, definitely.
But at the end of the day, I feel like one thing that I do stand by is that if it's a change that doesn't affect me, I just don't, like, it doesn't matter. It's like anyone can do what they want with that change. But I think a lot of people have it where this change doesn't affect me, but I'm still going to be against it because I don't feel affected by this, so they shouldn't either. And I think that is a big thing. How have you experienced that with people?
Well, it's been tough, obviously. I've had people that will just, as soon as they find out, well, a perfect example is I made a coming out video a couple of months ago on the channel.
I did want to talk about that in a bit. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, we can get to that. That's fine. But I just wanted to mention the part where as soon as I made that video, I lost 200 subs within the first day. How many
subs did you have at the time?
Oh God, I've been stuck around 40,000 now for ages. 43,000 and like 600, and then we dropped to like 43,000.
Because I think what people don't realize is when they say, oh, you lost 200 out of like 40 odd thousand or so, it doesn't sound much in total, but for me, if I gain 200 subs in a day, that is an incredible day for me. Yeah. So it is and like there's 200 people. Like
I'm not any different. My content isn't changing. My sense of humor is exactly the same as the person you subscribe to. The only reason you left is because you don't feel comfortable that I'm transgender. I don't get.
Yeah, because it shouldn't affect anyone else, really, should it?
No, like I don't talk about it all the time. I'm not like, oh, starting every video, hello, you sexy transgenders. No, I don't.
That would be a good intro.
That's a good idea. I should have done that yesterday with transvisibility. Damn it. I'll start my next video like that. So yeah, it's not something that I shove down people's throats. You know, it's not something like that. With education, I think that as a civilization, the humanity in the last 100 years, we've come a very long way.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, even just in the last 10 years, there's been big differences.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, in the 60s, we had, race and stuff was talked about a lot more. And then, of course, gay and lesbian was talked about a lot more in the 90s. And now we're talking about being trans. And I think that people, the biggest thing that I see of negativity that I see is people going, oh, you're part of that LGBTQ, and then they'll start listing off random letters. It's like a dig at the different genders. It's like, even I don't know all the letters, but that doesn't mean that you should mock it I mean, we're all human, you know?
I think people try and it sounds strange because, as you say, we moved on quite a lot. But even now, I think people are trying to put everybody in their own sort of group. And I think this happens with, like, I'm not saying this is a right or a left side. I think it happens on both sides. There's a lot of, I think feeling part of a community is a good thing, but and it happens on both sides. People trying to say, you're this, you're this, you're this, so you can't say this and you can't say this. And to some extent, I think there just needs to be more person. There's less people now and there's more individual groups of people now. And I think it's becoming way more separate now. But the main reason that I wanted to bring this up was because you did make that video on your Sexy Biscuit channel. And because you mostly make gaming content, I can imagine on Roxy Report, if that was what you talked about more, the audience were there for that sort of thing. So,
well, the Roxy Report was an LGBT discussion channel. It was about gender dysphoria and stuff like that, and the whole thing was based around education, I suppose, but in a light way. I don't want to be like sat there with documents. I want to make it fun. I want to make it interesting so people who don't know anything can watch it. I think the biggest experience I took away from that was a mother contacted me who had disowned their son, as they put it, because they'd come out as trans.
Right.
And that was hard because a part of me wanted to hate on this person because you don't disown your child. Like, but they'd watched my content and had kind of understood a lot more because of the videos, and they felt bad. So what I did was I talked them through certain things and tried to make it clear that they aren't doing this out of malice. They didn't transition to be against you. That's not a thing.
Did she think it was like sort of a rebellion sort of thing? Was that her point of view?
Yeah, I think that was her thought process. And the fact that their kid wasn't the kid they thought they were. And I don't think that's the case. I think we're all the same person. We go through different stages. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we have, like Doctor Who, we have different regenerations, but we're the same person all the way throughout. Yeah. And I think that she didn't really understand that. And that was hard. And I was thankfully able to help with that. And that's what that channel was all about. It was hopefully helping people who didn't understand as much and to be open about stuff, because I feel that the trans community can be, I will say right now, the trans community can be very overpowering at times, and there are people in the trans community I don't agree with. I think that some people can jump down your throat if you don't gender noun them properly immediately, and I don't feel that's right. If you're in public and somebody misgenders you, okay, that person's never met you before. You're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
That is tough, and I think what people do is kind of pin that at us and say, oh, you have a go at people who misgender you, and it's like, no, not every trans person does. I think that's a misconception.
I think that's going back to sort of people judging a person by the group or community they're in, and the sort of a split. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
they generally think we're all very far left. Personally, I am left leaning anyway. I've always been, but it's tough. But no, the Roxy Report was created for education and fun, and also my dad. My dad was a big part of that, and I think he also understood and learned from that, and we had some of the most fun times together. And I think that channel, I kind of stopped making videos on it because it didn't feel right not doing it with him. So
do you want to, are you all right talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm okay talking about my dad loss. So I've lost both my parents. I lost my mum back in 2009 due to stomach cancer, and I lost my dad and brother in 2018. My dad was a very kooky man. He had a big quiff. He had a quiff since he was 17, and he passed just before he turned 60. And he was very into rockabilly and rock and roll, and he was kind of close-minded a lot of the time, and we'd always argue about politics and stuff like that. And I think in the last couple of years was a lot of fun because we'd argue all the time, but in a good way. I think arguing about stuff like that's fun. Having discussions and stuff. When I came out to him in 2011, I remember going to work, and at this point I was losing it. I was going to work every day. It was the same routine, and in my head I knew I needed to come out because I couldn't stay as I was. And I needed to release that pressure. I'd already come out to my brother, who was immediately fine with it, thankfully. But I needed to come out to my dad, and I knew that was going to be hard because he generally wasn't that open about stuff like that. And I drove to work, and a truck had broken down in the middle of the road, and I don't know what it was. I just snapped. I had a mental breakdown in the car. I spun it round, parked it in the car park, rang my dad and said, I'm not working today. I'm going to come home, and I need to tell you something. And I drove home. He was on the phone. He was saying, no, you're going to go to work. You're going to lose that job. And I was like, I don't care about the job. Like, a job is nothing in comparison to something so big, something so life-changing. I need to tell you. And I drove home, and he was sat eating his breakfast. He always had cheese toasties every morning I'd make for him. And I drove home, and I walked in. He was sat at the dining room table, eating his toasty, reading his book. And I said, right, wait there. And I went in my room, and I bought a gender dysphoria guide book thing to give to people if they needed to ask any questions. That was easier for them to just read it. And I slammed it on the table, and I said, I'm trans. And he looked at me and was like, what? I was like, look at the book. I was blurting stuff out, and I said, look at the book. And he's like, right, oh. And he honestly had a piece of toast hanging out of his mouth for about 10 minutes. It was. I wish I'd taken a photograph. It was amazing. But I was bawling. I was crying so much. It was such a big weight off my shoulders, but I didn't know if he was going to disown me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
how was sort of the reaction after that then? Sort of after the initial...
Tough.
Yeah.
Like, he closed down towards me for a few weeks. We'd say hi to each other, and he'd go about his business, but it was hard. I mean, he brought up a son, and I was telling him that was wrong in his own mind. I basically, to him, I'd said, you brought me up wrong, which isn't the case at all.
Yeah.
And I think the first point where I knew it had become better was when he made a joke about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, he said it was something about marriage, and he was like, oh, you're going to... Because he assumed because I was becoming a woman, I was going to date men.
Yeah.
Because apparently both correlate. But anyway, he basically joked and said, oh, you're going to marry a woman. Oh, no, you're going to marry a man. And he did the kind of thing. And I was like, that little moment for me was big because he joked about it. And that was the first time that I realized that he was accepting it. And that was good. And over the next couple of years, we became really close because we were quite distant, I'll be honest, before. He was a single father. My mum and him were divorced when I was 2. I saw my mum a lot, but he was quite a distant father. He cared about me a lot, but he didn't really show it. And I think in those last few years, he became my best friend, and we spent a lot of time. I've seen that
on. Are those the videos on your channel? Are they more recent ones? After that,
yeah,
time?
They're in the last 2 years.
Yeah, because you can really see that, especially when you're like playing games and stuff with him and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend if you ever get a chance on the Roxy Report, There's a series we did called Monday Madness with Dad, and it's just us it's us doing our Monday shop. And it's us going to Tesco's and prattling around and him making rude jokes and just being an idiot. And he was my best friend in those last couple of years. And I'm so glad we got to spend those last few years together. Because I would have hated myself if I had never come out. I would have hated myself. And the night before, well, the day before he passed, we'd had an argument. He'd gone off he always used to go to see bands and stuff at Rock and Roll Weekenders. And he'd driven off and we'd given each other a hug, which was not very often we did that. And I hugged him and he drove off and that was the last time I physically saw him. But the night after that, he texted me saying, "Oh, can you get up early to walk the dogs with Nan?" And I was like, "Oh, no." And I got kind of pissy with him because I'm not very good in the mornings. I got kind of pissy by a text and we had a little falling out. And I thankfully rang him at 11 that night. And he answered and we made up and we were joking about stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I can't wait for you to come home," because literally that weekend was when I'd uploaded my Kingdom Come Deliverance review.
Oh, right. Okay.
My first Kingdom Come video, and that had started taking off. I think it had like 400 views, but that was mind blowing.
Well, yeah.
That was from like 1 to 2 views to 400 was what? And I said to him, it's becoming a thing. It's happening. And he was really happy for me. And we finished, said goodnight, and the next morning, my stepmom came in my room, who was with him on the holiday, and just said, and I realized he wasn't with her. But
was it very sudden then, that sort of thing?
Yeah, he passed in his sleep.
Right. Okay.
He something with an aortic, one of the pipes from the heart, had just blocked, and he was feeling really good that evening on the phone when I was talking to him. He said, because he'd been complaining about chest pains for a while. And I said, "Go and see the doctor." And the doctor said yes. And he'd gone to the doctors. They'd given him some medicine for it. And he came back home and he was still having it. And then when he got to the Rock and Roll Weekender on the phone, he was like, "Oh, I feel like loads of energy." And he was doing push-ups to show my stepmom how healthy he was. But when you think back on that, generally in cases where people, well, obviously everyone dies, but generally when someone's about to die, the body will push out one last bit of energy.
Yeah.
And that was that. We just didn't realize. And I'm thankfully he passed in his sleep, and he was at a place he enjoyed, seeing rock and roll bands and eating chips and drinking beer and just having fun. And I'm glad that's where he went, because that's where he'd want to have gone. So, yeah, it's, loss is horrible. Don't recommend it.
especially when it's like someone as close as a parent. Like that just seems to me like that is the most devastating thing. And especially just after you become, well, not just a parent, but also a best friend at that point. But would you say that sort of, you mentioned how you felt the blow up on YouTube around that time. Does that almost give it sort of a bittersweet feeling? It does.
He had joked to me, because he'd let me borrow, I think, around £5,000 over the last 10 years, because I'd moved into my first apartment with my girlfriend / fiance at the time, and I'd spent all my money, and I was a crappy teenager who had spent all their money, wasn't very adult, and he let me borrow quite a lot of money very kindly, and I'd always said to him, "I'm going to pay you back." And he said, "When you become big on YouTube, gonna play." And a part of me, when Warhorse shared that video and the views started rolling in, a part of me was like, oh my God, it's happening. I'm going to become big, and I can buy my dad his favorite car. And I was thinking about buying him his E-Type Jaguar. He loved E-Type Jaguars. I think that I wanted my channel to become big more for him than for me at that point.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say, I suppose. But yeah, it's bittersweet because thankfully I was able to let him know that it was happening and he was happy before he passed. But I wish he was still here because the channel would have been completely different because we would have been doing multiplayer videos together. We would have been doing father and like daughter stuff, and like it would have been crazy. I would have loved it, and it does sadden me. It does sadden me. I think that I kind of connect it to him passing, unfortunately. So yeah, it is bittersweet.
Yeah,
definitely.
One of the things that I wanted to go back to is we talked about your Roxy Report channel and how that was the audience for it. What was, I think you mentioned in your main channel video, your Sexy Biscuit channel, when you made that video saying you're transitioning at this point. And that was obviously on a channel that has nothing to do with an audience you've grown to it. You mentioned that you were scared, and I couldn't imagine sort of that feeling because I know the gaming audience, as amazing as it is sometimes, they're often also the most brutal people in the world. And I've experienced that on the tiniest level. What was the response with that video? You mentioned the subscriber loss, but was there anything else that came from that?
Oddly enough, I have been very lucky.
There are a lot of positive comments that I've seen.
I think I only had to block 3 people. Like, generally, if I get a really nasty comment, I will block the person because there's no point. Like, I haven't got time for negativity. If it's a constructive comment, I will comment and I'll be like, why do you think this? And we can have a conversation, of course. I mean, I am open to conversation. The obviously, the subscriber loss was telling, but the video comments, my community, I'm going to say it right now, if anyone's watching, because I know a lot of my community watches you as well. So, hello. You're all fantastic. I mean, you were fantastic in that video. You support me, and that means the world. But of course it scared me. Uploading that video was scary. I mean, my channel is 96% male.
I was looking at your demos. I saw your demos you put on Twitter. Yeah. That's still more than mine. Mine's 99% male.
You need to make some other videos.
Nah, my girlfriend's like, it's fine. I like that. No girls are watching your videos. That's absolutely fine.
Fair enough. So yeah, of course it was a little bit scary. And generally, the Kingdom Come Deliverance community, from what I've seen, is generally more right-leaning. And of course, that's like
the historical community. Yeah, I would say they are very right-leaning. That I've found out. Yeah.
I mean, not saying they're like bad. I'm just saying that generally the right is known for not liking trans people, and well, especially far right. But that was, of course, scary because I didn't want to. I didn't want to lose people, but I also didn't want to see the hate because it gets me. Of course, I think anyone. It gets hate, it gets to you. And out of 1,000 comments that are positive, one negative comment will just sit in your brain, and you'll just have it rolling over and over again. And that's what they're going for. I mean, that's understandable. And there's probably going to be comments on this video or podcast. So I understand that. But so yeah, when that video went up, I was really, really happy with the response it got. And I was glad. And because I've seen some people come out to me afterwards saying, I'm trans, and the representation here is amazing. Like, there are quite a few trans people in the KCD community that just hadn't told me. Like, I had no idea. Like, so if I can be a representation for them in the game that they love, that's amazing. And that's why I wanted to make the video, because I wanted to let people know we exist, I'm here, and I'm just a normal person who loves video games.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the message at the end of the day. You know, the channel's about gaming, my passion and love for it.
I don't know if you found this. This is one of the main reasons I actually wanted to do this podcast, is to talk to other YouTubers, because with my friends, I love them all, and I hope they appreciate me, but they don't care about my YouTube channel. If I tell them like, oh, like a video blew up, my mate James is like, all right. And even my girlfriend, who, with all the best will in the world, I'll talk to her a lot about, and she'll understand, but I don't think there's anyone, except unless you're doing YouTube yourself, that you quite understand at least the mental side of it. How have you dealt with the sort of the comments and the likes? I mean, YouTube have put up an update saying they're testing to see if they're turning dislikes off now.
I'm talking about that topic. I think I put on Twitter at the time when it was announced, I said this could be good, but I hadn't really thought about the negativity that could come from that. I kind of was on a spur of the moment kind of thing, seeing it and thinking, oh, that's good. Obviously with, as you said, if a video, like, I don't know, like the trailer for, what was it, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and it was the most unliked.
Yeah. Well, now
trailer.
YouTube Rewind, which is the ironic thing. YouTube are like, no more dislikes. Yeah.
Oh, that's why. That's bloody why. Well, this video's got 40,000 likes, and it's got like a million dislikes.
Got the most disliked video in history, and then they're like, you know what? I don't think this dislike thing is working. I just all of a sudden feel like we should probably get rid. I think mostly it's for the creators' benefit, but you know,
yeah, because obviously dislikes can hurt. I mean, you wonder why.
Oh, they sting sometimes.
What would have been good is if you dislike a video, if it would ask why. Because we don't see why. Like, if you just come to my channel, dislike a video, if it's because of a certain thing, if you had commented, I could maybe say, oh, look into doing that. Or, you know, there needs to be more communication. So I think that the like and dislike system definitely needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Completely
whether that's the best solution.
Thing.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure in the history of anything, turning a blind eye and saying it doesn't exist has ever been a fix or a solution for an issue. Yeah, but there's always that one person that has notifications on for your channel just to dislike it first, and there's always dislike in the first 10 seconds, and I'm like, what?
You know what needs fixing? The notification system.
That too. I mean, we could sit for hours and hours about everything that YouTube needs to fix. I mean, I think I'm probably less whingy about YouTube than most people, because at the end of the day, like, as long as people are still watching my videos, I'm not that bothered what happens. Like, with all the demonetization stuff, I've not been that badly affected, but I definitely think there are some people that has killed, and like their channels have just been demolished by it. And yeah, I think YouTube, the problem is it has so many issues, but what else is there? It's like Stockholm syndrome. We're like, we hate you, but we can't live without you.
Literally, like, there's no other option. What am I going to go and do, bloody Bebo or something? You know, I can't. There's no other place to go.
Isn't there that Chinese one, Billy? I see my videos getting
Billy.
It's like, no joke, it is massive. I think it's like one of the. It's like YouTube level, but obviously only in China. But I've seen my videos being re-uploaded onto that. I'm sure yours probably have as well.
I'm moving to Billy. There you go. Announcement. My new Sexy Billy channel. It's going to be great. No, that's another thing. Like, I have seen my videos re-uploaded to other places. Do I care? Not really. I mean, as long as they aren't making a crap ton of money off me, and if the views are lower than my own views,
low views and stuff. So
yeah.
I mean, there was this one guy when KCD first came out. I don't remember his name now, but every video I would make, he would upload a video on his channel explaining how bad my video was, and it was a whole channel dedicated to hating me. And now I would see that. And it had like a few thousand subscribers, I think. And the videos had like hundreds, if not thousands of views sometimes. And like, now I would see that and I'd be like, oh, this is pretty funny. It's kind of funny.
That's fucking hilarious.
Back then, when Kingdom Come Deliverance came out, I was I think I was 18, and I was like, that got to me quite a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, at that age, yeah, definitely.
But now I just think it's funny, but YouTube is a weird place. I don't, like, he just has vanished. His channel's vanished now, but that was a mad time.
Maybe because he realised what he was doing was completely ridiculous. But Yeah, like
Well, I managed to get back at him one time, was when he made the mistake of re-uploading an entire one of my videos, so I was able to put a strike on his channel.
that's good.
And maybe that was just angry 18-year-old me being like, yeah, I can get one back at him.
Yeah, what serves him right? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, anyway, I've seen on your channel at the moment, well, I wouldn't say completely, but you've really started to change your content. Obviously, you started with Kingdom Come. Then you had Mafia. Would you say that's your next big spike with videos?
Yeah, it was Kingdom Come for about 1.5 years. And then Mafia, just, of course, Mafia is made by, it's made by Daniel Vavra, the original Mafia.
Yeah.
And of course, Daniel Vavra, for those that don't know, is the creator of Warhorse Studios that made Kingdom Come Deliverance. So I'd had a couple of comments over the years saying, please play Mafia. And I finally decided to do it. And that week, they announced the remake. It was both Kingdom Come Deliverance and Mafia were right place, right time.
Yeah.
They announced the remake of Mafia the Definitive Edition, and I just happened to be there making my Mafia video, and 2K noticed. And we're like,
you got off like an early copy of that. I was like, you jam bastard! How do you manage that?
It blew my mind too, because I wasn't expecting it. No, I was under full NDA. I had a copy of the game. I was about 2 weeks early. Like, I was able to get videos done. Like, what? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. That is mad.
I did that, and I did the whole of Mafia 1, the original Mafia 1. That's my only Let's Play I've ever completed. I'm terrible at Let's Plays. I mean, I have ADHD. I can't focus on things for too long. So it was a miracle I completed that game. I'm really happy with that Let's Play, because the ending is just, so good. So good. I love that ending. And that's probably one of my favorite series. But yeah, so Mafia then dropped off, as every game does. I think that, and plus, as a creator, I get bored, because I want to keep doing things that make me excited. And Kingdom Come Deliverance slowly fell off, and at that point, I'd played the game for countless hours, and I was like, I'm kind of burnt out on this. And as a creator, being burnt out on a game can be a death sentence. I don't know how some channels do it. I mean, you play Bannerlord, but you also make videos on other games.
I couldn't do any, like, I tried in Christmas. I tried to do a month of Bannerlord videos, and I got to like 15 days in. I was like, I'm so bored of this. And I just gave up. Like, my channel blew up because of Bannerlord. And so I make those videos every now and then because they get like good views and stuff. But I try to just make Mount and Blade videos every day. And it's honestly, it made me hate the game.
That was me for 1.5 years with Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like, I was so tired of seeing Henry's stupid face at the end of 1.5 years. To the point where I needed to make that change, and Mafia thankfully just dropped on my lap, literally. So both that fell, and then now what I basically have told myself is, when KCD 2 gets announced, Kingdom Come Retribution, I'm betting on that name. I'm betting on that name if it's a thing. Warhorse, by the way, liked that tweet, and I DM'd them. I was like, I just guessed the name, didn't I? And they were like, no.
Wait, I need to ask you about this, because obviously everyone knows your channel has been trying to, well, to put it lightly, piss off Warhorse Studios. That's basically been the timeline of your channel in the last few weeks. Have you actually, but no one knows the ins and outs, have you actually got any sort of in-depth information or secret stuff from them at all about KCD2?
They've slipped up.
Is this publicly or in DMs with you?
It's no, not publicly. I can't say any more than that because I can't.
Are you sure you can't say more than that?
Look, for me, If you watch my interviews with Tom McKay, Luke Dell, and Victoria Hogan, in each of those videos, I said, so how's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 coming? You know, it was a running joke at that point. It's annoying because I want to be able to say stuff, but I need to back it up with evidence. All I can say is it's obvious. It's so obvious something is in development.
Yeah, definitely.
It's Kingdom Come related.
They have kind of stopped trying to say. They've not said no, and they've kind of been a bit more wink, wink sort of thing. I've discovered recently,
and I think that's what game companies need to do because they need to keep people's interest. And I think if you keep saying no, nothing's happening, people are going to get disheartened by it and are going to leave.
Yeah, they need people to stick around just for long enough.
Yeah, it's building up that expectation. It's building up the excitement. And I think with Kingdom Come Deliverance, they should have, and I'm not a PR person, but if I was the PR person, sorry, Sir Toby, love you, beard. If I was a PR person, I would have, thrown some small hints or kind of like put up a little picture and there's something hidden in the background, maybe just something to kind of get YouTubers like me to make investigation videos on.
You've done a couple of them already. Where did this sort of, because you did one about them, the medieval weapon mocap and stuff like that. Where did all that information come from? That
was all from the community. The community found that. I mean, I was very lucky, and the community were like, hey, this has just popped up on their either Twitter or Reddit. And I think that the 1506 thing was probably the biggest thing we ever had for a hint. And that was a whiteboard in the background of one of the pictures of them testing out the new weapons. What you're talking about is the mocap. There's two different things.
Oh, okay. So it goes
there's
deeper.
It goes a lot deeper. So there's the 1506 whiteboard conspiracy that was this whiteboard in the background of one of their pictures of, I think, some of their kind of like workers or developers in like full bodysuit armor. And if you looked at the background, you could see KCD 1506. And of course,
it's 1504, the original, isn't it? Am I right?
No, 1403.
1403.
Yeah.
Right. So that's okay.
So that's a massive leap.
So it's not a mistake that that's there.
No.
But also, how would that the main? But that's not the story. But
I don't know.
Is Henry 100 years old?
Yes. He went into cryostasis.
So it's not about Henry. But then there was at the end of Kingdom Come, there was a cliffhanger. What is going on?
I know. It's horrible.
Oh, it does go deeper.
It does go so much deeper. So this 1506 thing, I jumped on it. I was like, you know what?
Well,
even if it's wrong, I don't care. I want to make a video and see what Warhorse does.
It's your responsibility, as a YouTuber. You have to do that.
Detective Roxy's always on the case, as I always say. So I made that video, and Warhorse liked it and shared it, which was kind of, back then, that was big because they hadn't shared anything related to KCD2 at that point. But Toby messaged me. He was like, that's not a thing. And I was like, are you sure? He was like, yeah, it's a code we use in development. I was like, right, yeah, sure.
It's actually 6 minutes past 3 in the afternoon when they have their tea break.
Yes, that's what it is. And I was like, I'm on to you. I'm on to you, Toby. Toby is the wiliest man in the world. He's so sneaky, and he always tries to throw you off. And I know you're watching this. just know I'm onto your game. Anyway, the mocap suit thing was, I think it's a German studio or a French. I can't remember. It's been so long. I think it's French, but they made the weapons for the green screen mocap.
Yeah.
And in their Facebook post, they posted, we can't wait to see these in the next Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh.
And like that was big.
Well, that's just confirmation.
Yeah, that is literally confirmation. They knew that this was being used for the next KCD. I mean, that's obvious. What happened next was they ended up deleting that Facebook post after I'd taken a screenshot of it. Yes. I made a video on it, and then I actually Facebook messaged them, and I said, so what do you guys know And they were like, we know nothing. We were just hoping that there's going to be another Kingdom Come. I was like, right, yeah, that makes sense. Because like they made out that their post was translated wrong. No, the rest of that post was in perfect English. There was no translation error there.
Yeah, they came up with a translation error excuse.
Yes. So yeah, I love poking Warhorse with a stick.
I can tell.
I love
and
the
so
studio.
far,
I think they're
far,
amazing.
it seems like they're taking it pretty well. Do you think they'll ever snap? How far are you going to go until you make them snap?
The only way
you're poking $1 million bear here.
I am. Well, I always say that if you look at my statistics and analytics for Kingdom Come Deliverance, I think I'm over nearly 10 million views of just Kingdom Come Deliverance videos.
Wow. Yeah.
So I sold 1 million copies of Kingdom Come Deliverance. You know, I can throw that in their face and be like, I sold multiple millions of copies.
Do you have the receipts of this, or are they just hidden in a cupboard somewhere that you can't show anyone?
I lost them though. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
No, I love Warhorse Studios. I think they're fantastic, and I love working with them when they give me the opportunity to talk about things like the DLC I was told about beforehand, and I knew bits about that, and I had access to that. They gave me some of the DLC for free, which I was very grateful for. I think they're a fantastic studio, and they're the most open studio for like community stuff. Didn't you go and have dinner with Toby in Nottingham? Yeah. How did that come about? So he said, I'm coming to the UK because he obviously lives in the Czech Republic, and I think he had talked to Knights Arcade, and Knights Arcade lives in Nottingham. So Knight messaged me saying, so Toby's coming to Nottingham. Do you want to come up to Nottingham and stay for a few days? And we could all go and have dinner. I was like, I do want to meet the beard. So I was like, damn it, I can't deny that. So I traveled, awful, multiple trains, all the way from the southwest where I currently am, all the way up bloody Nottingham. It was awful. I hated it. But when I got there,
Nottingham or the train?
Well, Nottingham wasn't great. It was all right.
I mean, they've pretty much just got like Robin Hood. Is that it? That's all they've really got, right?
Yeah, Robin Hood.
Other than that, what do they do? Just sit there?
Nothing. The train station looked nice.
Nice.
That was it, really. So
Roxy's review of Nottingham. The train station looked nice.
It was all right. Yeah, it looked fancy from the inside. They had a mannequin that was all dressed up. So Toby, we ended up traveling into town because Knight lives a couple of about 10, 15 minutes out of town. So we ended up driving into town, parked in a multi-story, and went to this really fancy restaurant. It was an Americana-style diner. Not diner. It had American-style food, like fries and burgers and stuff. Amazing. Want to go there again. I don't want to travel again, though. Awful. So Toby was there. He came in. He was late, by the way. And he said he was going to beat me at Farkle and then forgot to bring his dice. Likely tale.
He's not here to defend himself. You can't do this. He's just furiously typing in the comments.
He's like, no. He's lovely. Toby's one of the nicest people I know. He's so kind and generous, and I gave him a pack of jammy Dodgers, and I think in my video I made, because I vlogged the whole thing, in my video I think he names them jammy Doogers or something ridiculous. It makes me laugh every time I hear him say it. But yeah, he was fantastic. And of course, he's their PR. So of course, me and Knight, and also Henry Escalets, who's another Kingdom Come YouTuber, was there as well. And I was kind of, poking Toby. I was like, go on, do something, say something. He was like, I'm not saying anything. And that was hard. So I thought, we'll get him drunk. But no, we had quite a bit of alcohol, and it was a good time. And then Henry left, and me and Knight and Toby went to Toby's hotel he was staying at, and it was like this big 4-star hotel. And we went to the bar, and the lady behind the bar was like, "Are these guests?" And he was like, "Well, yeah." And she said, "We can't bring guests into the bar. This is only resident people staying." And he turned on the ultimate charm and just flirted with this woman, and she allowed us to stay and have lots of alcohol.
Nice, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
you always need someone in the party like that can get you into anywhere.
Yeah, he has smooth moves, Wario smooth moves. He has all those moves. So yeah, that was great fun. And I learned a lot about Warhorse as well from him, and like the fact he lived below, I think at one point, Daniel Vavra, and that's how they met.
Oh, I see.
And that's how he got the job as PR, which is amazing. Yeah. So Warhorse Studios, I love, and yeah, I jokingly poke fun. I jokingly post stuff to kind of get people riled up a little bit and to push people to be like, "Hey, Warhorse, what's going on?" Because I feel like the community doesn't always do that, and I want to kind of get people. Come on, guys, you got to do this. You got to try. And when it gets announced, amazing. I can't wait. It's going to be such a fantastic day. Oh God, I'm just trying to think. I have a video created that I created about 1.5 years ago that says...
Is this in preparation?
Yes. I literally have a video saying Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been announced, and it's literally just that. So I have it literally set to upload at the press of a button. Because I know for a fact, as soon as it gets announced, I'm going to need to make like 15 videos. It's going to be the worst day of my life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You should do what I did when Bannerlog came out. Say, I'm going to do a 24-hour live stream, and 15 hours into the live stream, I was like, I want to die. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. When Mafia Definitive Edition came out, I did, I think, 6 hours, and even that was like...
24 hours is longer than you think, funnily enough.
It is. Yeah. The thing is, I've said for my 50,000 subscriber thing, what I want to do is I want to play Desert Bus. And I want to do the 8-hour drive from Tucson.
But there's no gameplay. That's why it's so... It's you might as well just like stare at a beige wall.
Literally. The only problem with Desert Bus is the bus is constantly trying to go right.
Well, that too. A beige wall that's slowly tipping over that you've got to right.
Yeah. Because I think that's kind of a rite of passage for YouTubers, I think.
You've got to do something stupid. Bus. Yeah.
Because people have asked me multiple times, what are you going to do for 50? I have no clue. Like, I don't have like a big plan. Like, I don't know. I mean, I remember when I did your 50K video.
Yeah, I just got people to insult me, and some of them hurt more than others.
Oh, no. What was it? I think my one was something
like
about...
you copied my video, my Teresa video or something.
That was very true. You do copy my video. No, there was a one of your thumbnails or titles was like something about doing a horse, and I was like, I'm not letting you near pebbles. I can't remember what the title was.
That video, yeah, he said I had sex with a horse in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and that video got... I was like, this is just like a dumb title. It's funny. And people were offended by this. And I was like, mate, it's a mission in the game where you hallucinate and you have sex with a horse, right? And everyone, the amount of people that were like, this is disgusting, take this video down. I was like, come on.
Oh, that really kind of sexy lockpicking. Lockpick that butt. Like,
Speaking of Kingdom Come quickly, I want to quickly go over the interviews you did with the cast. So, how was that for you? Sort of meeting people that, I mean, even watching it was weird. Seeing people that you played and they were like weird. They'd been in your ears for hours on end, but you were sort of controlling them, and then all of a sudden they're a real person.
The Tom McKay one, I think
that has to be
Yeah, I mean, obviously Luke Dell looks very like Hans. Obviously, he is based on him, but Tom McKay was what? I wasn't expecting him to look identical. I thought there'd be some differences. I mean, his hair was the same. Do
you know the weirdest part? His voice was the same.
I know. It was like I was just talking to a game character. It was so weird. So the Tom McKay one was probably the scariest. That was also my first. I should have probably have built up to Tom McKay. So
Maybe,
Tom McKay,
you need to start with a bang, right?
that video, by the way,
It's done views, hasn't it? It's done mad views.
Yeah, like I'm so happy that video did well because obviously it's so impressive to see him in the flesh because it's so bloody weird. But I had to contact his agent because he doesn't have social media.
Right.
So I basically asked Warhorse, I said, who do I contact? Because I want to do this series. And they gave me an email to his agent, I think. And I was very, very kindly able to get them to message Tom and then put me in contact with him. Because normally agents will ask for money. So Warhorse was like, they're probably going to charge you. I was like, I don't have any money. We can do this. It's fine. I can do it. And yeah, they very kindly put me in contact with Tom McKay. He's the loveliest guy. But he out of the 3 interviews, he is definitely the most serious actor. You know, he messed around and had a couple of jokes, but he wasn't as laid back as Victoria Hogan and Luke Dale were. Luke Dale and Victoria Hogan. I think Victoria Hogan was because all of them were good. All of them are fantastic people, but Victoria Hogan, I think, was my favorite for just how well we got on.
I think that came across pretty well in the video, yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know, we'd never spoken. Like, it just seemed, I'm guessing she's just a very open person, but we just got on like house on fire. Luke Dale was also really lovely, and he did the whole, like, when I asked about Kingdom Come, he walked off, and that was very fun. And yeah, I think Victoria Hogan was my favorite just because of how perfect it ended up. But no, Tom McKay was scary, because this is your first interview.
Yeah,
this is kind of what you're feeling right now, I suppose, but times 10 because it's Tom McKay, not Sexy Biscuit. But that was like, I'd
say you're pretty much up there on the level of a Tom McKay.
Thank you. Well, I did create Biscuit Town.
Exactly. You're the owner of a whole town. What's Tom McKay got, man? He's got nothing.
Yeah. No, he's in an Emperor's Own.
Yes, he is now. His new project. What do you think of that game then? Like, wait. Before you answer this, what are your raw, honest opinions as if this is like not, because I'm sure I found it as well when I'm making a video, sometimes go a bit softer on the devs because I know how much like hard work, but what is your actual honest opinion? Because my honest opinion is it's good but very unpolished, I would say.
It's very unpolished.
It's very unpolished.
I thought it was a joke. I thought someone had made a Kingdom Come parody. I didn't realize. Like, when you told me...
Now you say that.
When you told me, because you put me up, you put me onto this. I had no clue this game existed. And I was like, it's got Henry in it. And I was playing it, and that opening cutscene where they're all in that room, one guy sounds like he's a robot. There's like a guy with glasses, and there's Tom McKay playing basically Henry.
Henry, yeah. Doing some whistling as well.
What is this? And then the part that had me in hysterics was the part where you go up to the chest, and he opens it and he goes do 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 do, and I was like,
that terrified me. I was like, wait, what? Because it seems so out of place, and I was not expecting like that sort of game that is about a time in history that wasn't exactly a nice time in history, let's say, and then all of a sudden he's making, what is it, the Zelda theme?
Yeah,
sound?
It's the Legend of Zelda opening chest.
On?
Yeah, like that blew my mind a little bit. Not only because it was so out of place. What was it? There was something I was going to say about it because it was so. Someone commented in my video. I thought that was you making the noise. Someone thought it was me doing the Zelda thing. And I was like, no, that was in the game. That was Tom McKay. Just so mind-blowing. I loved it. I honestly, I really enjoyed making those videos. I completed the demo. I think
it did
they have
feel like Kingdom Come in terms of the story. I felt like I'm not one that plays many single-player games, but when I was playing it, I felt I wouldn't say I was incredibly engaged, but I was almost engaged, which I think is where they need to be for their first sort of demo. So yeah, I would say it's a pretty decent start to a game.
Yeah, I think that if they keep developing it, I think it's good because they had the camaraderie. Yeah, they had the camaraderie down really well. Like Tom's character and those two other people worked really well together, and I think they had that Henry and Hans kind of relationship, which was really good. I think that game's going to go places if they can clean it up a bit. Get more voice actors. I think the voice actors in the game are actually really good. Like,
I think the voice actors are good. Yeah, definitely.
Pretty big talent in there. They had people from The Witcher. They had people from Mass Effect.
Well, that was the thing that kind of confused me because obviously the voice actors gave it that legitimacy, but the actual. It didn't really fit with the game because there was and there was also a lot of variation with the quality of the microphones used. You can tell it was done in lockdown, remotely.
I think there was one point where you could hear traffic behind Henry. I was like, sorry, the car's going past. Hang on a minute.
They should have just committed to that and added a car going past in the background.
There are so many other. I don't know how far you played through it, but there are so many little references. There's the wagon that sells stuff, and it's this he's like this salesman, and he has a wagon with the yellow exclamation mark from Warcraft above him, but it's painted on the wagon, so it's right above him from the right angle, and that was really funny. I like that joke. The person that is the salesman is blatantly a reference to the guy who owns Activision, Bobby Kotick, I think. He looks very similar to him, and he's obviously known for being a scumbag, basically, and earning lots of money and firing people. So, yeah, he's not a great person. But I like that was a reference to that. And the fact that when you talk to him, he even says, I have this really fancy weapon, but you have to give me 5 wolf pelts, 3 special flowers. And it was like, this is just a quest from Warcraft. And then my character says, we're not doing that. Fantastic. That's a great joke.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
The comedy in it's really good. But no, Emperor's Own, highly recommend it. Demo free on Steam. It's completely available.
Yeah, it's free as well, which is mad. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, definitely.
Got 6 hours out of it. So, very good.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it was a good time to probably wrap up the podcast. Let the people know out there what you're doing on your channel. I've noticed you're doing some more like retro game stuff. Where's the channel going now?
Oh, it's going in a weird direction. So I have bought a load of demo discs, and for those of you that are watching the video of this, this is an upcoming video, so this is kind of like spoilers, I suppose, but PlayStation demo discs.
Oh, wow.
Look at these. These I got off eBay, and I've got a load more coming. I love just booting up an old demo disc and just seeing what's on it, because that's like Christmas. You're opening up a gift and you don't know what's in it. So I'm doing that. I'm playing The Sims. I've never played The Sims until 4 days ago. I'm loving it. And I'm going to be doing I'm basically going to be kind of swinging the channel between The Sims and retro PS2 stuff. And then when Kingdom Come finally gets its sequel announced, I will be right back on that. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, I don't want to limit myself, and I don't want to just be doing one thing, as I said earlier, because I think that ruins my creativity, and I think The Sims has been really kind of boosting my creativity. So yeah, that's what I'm doing on the channel. Sexy Biscuit on YouTube, Twitter at a Sexy Biscuit. People always ask, where do I find you? And they send me emails and stuff, and I don't always read my emails, and they get put in the junk. So not by me, by Gmail. Want to say that. If you ever need to contact me, at a Sexy Biscuit on Twitter, because I'm always on Twitter. I love Twitter. It's my home away from home. But yeah, so that's kind of the direction I'm going on the channel. So if you like The Sims, come on over.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think this has been a great podcast. I've really enjoyed this. It's my first sort of thing. I think it's gone pretty well, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is our first time talking.
True.
So it's kind of the same as the Victoria Hogan interviews. We seem to mesh together quite well.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 co-op. Confirmed.
Oh my God. That's the thing. We can do collabs. I'm always open for doing collabs, but yes. That's the thing.
Amazing.
People have been asking for multiplayer in Kingdom Come, and co-op would be the perfect option.
Exactly. Well, thank you everybody for listening to the podcast. I don't know how to do an outro on a podcast. Bye.
But bye.
Bye.
Bye.